And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara podcast. Here's Jeff.
My guest is Jesse Herman, author and channel of Vagrein. Jesse, thank you for joining me and welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here. So excited for the show.
Well, we're excited to have you. And let's first start with, how did you become a channeler in the first place?
So I didn't want to become a channeler at all. I had no interest in being weird or strange or unusual. And I had been on my spiritual journey for a little while, having begun meditation several years earlier and studying some non-duality and mystery school type of information, etc. And I had this pressure telling me, that I was a channel. I didn't want to listen to it. And I got really fed up on my birthday, my 40th birthday. And I said, I'm going to prove to this energy once and for all that I'm not a channel and just follow its instructions. The instructions were simply to go into a meditative state with a recorder, recording the sound in the room. And to my surprise, after the meditation, there was audio on the recording. I thought I had fallen asleep, and instead I heard my own voice, or something similar to my voice, speaking. So that was really surprising, and I thought I had finally gone crazy. But after a while, I met some people who were interested in channeling and asked them a little bit about it, and they were so excited. They wanted to have a session, and that's when I started to really believe that this was actually something that was happening through me, because the energy knew what these people needed to hear and knew how to have a conversation with them. And it was really absolutely spectacular.
So would you say that you're a trance channeler?
Oh yeah, I'm completely a trance channeler. I don't remember anything going into the session. Is the last thing I remember. And then coming out, I'll have some impressions. Maybe I'll have seen something, a forest here or a description there, but I'm not really aware of anything that's shared during the session by the participant or what is said through my vessel.
All right. Well, you said that before this, you were on your spiritual journey.
Yeah.
What was the catalyst that started this for you?
Well, actually, it was a pretty human catalyst. I had my daughter. I had just given birth to my daughter, and I had a pretty traumatic birth experience in the hospital. I wasn't really taken care of the way that one should be taken care of with a newborn, etc. And I came home and I knew I needed help. I was emotionally a little bit unstable, but I didn't have time with a newborn to go and get professional help from a psychiatrist or a psychologist. So I said, gee, I'm in trouble here. I need to find something to, come back to myself and calm my system. I said, well, I know that meditation's something that, a lot of people have said they have really good benefits from, and they can really help themselves calm their systems and maybe process whatever's happened with them. And I just really wanted to feel better. And be there for my daughter, newborn in the house and everything like that. And I started meditating, and I really fell in love with it. I actually started with that Headspace app. So, very basic, like come into your body type of meditation, really the beginner's version of all that. And then as I came into meditation, a lot of my own, I guess you'd call them either psychic or extrasensory abilities came back online, which I had put in a box away from myself since, I guess, my late teens. I didn't want to have any paranormal experiences anymore. And so I just ignored that entire aspect of myself.
All right. What happened to you back then?
Okay. Well, I grew up and I was the kid who could see the things, see ghosts and see aliens, and things were always happening around me. Lights were flickering around me, all kinds of weird stuff. And when I spoke to the adults in my life about what I was seeing or feeling or even predicting in terms of circumstances that were coming up, I was always told that I was dramatic and creative and exaggerating, and these were in my imagination. And so the connotations of the way that the people received what I was sharing with them made me believe that these were negative things to talk about, that you shouldn't be saying that you saw someone, who had passed on, or you shouldn't be saying that you had an experience, in your dream state that was very, very real to you, or what you perceived of as your dream state. And so I just bottled it all up. I thought they were right. I am exaggerating. I am a drama queen. I am the one who's making things up to get attention, because that was the way this was labeled and received by the people around me. But there was a part of me that, I knew weird stuff always happened, and that other people weren't having these similar experiences, and that they were extremely real for me. It was just an aspect of preservation to allow myself to believe that these were things that were, just imaginary.
So you had all these experiences, possibly from birth, then you
Yeah.
bottled it all up, and then it all came out again. Do you think it's possible that pre-birth you made some sort of decision that this was your purpose this time, spirituality, and this incident that happened after the birth of your daughter was your higher self bringing you back to your purpose?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I absolutely believe that's the case. I'm very aware of sort of the contracts that I've had with non-physical energies throughout my experience now. And I do see the childhood experiences simultaneously in perfection as well, because even though maybe they were scary or I didn't understand them or they were confusing or I had the responses from my family members such as I had, I did then have that experience of having a very normal life. So I am extremely grounded for someone who is able to do the trance channeling in the way that I do. And also, I also have a really great I guess, boundary system with the energies that are not welcome in my experience. So I don't really see dead people now the way that I would do when I was a child, or if there's some sort of relationship with extraterrestrials and stuff like that. It's very much based upon what I'm willing to allow into my experience on a regular basis or on any basis, and a consensual agreement between myself and these energies. So that switch that people can turn on and off in terms of their extrasensory perception, the same way you can open and close your eyelids and you don't have to see the sun, I have a very good control over what I will allow in and won't allow in with these particular abilities, let's say.
So is Vagrein a specific being or a collective?
So they're not a specific being, and they're not even necessarily a collective, although they are addressed or address themselves in the plural. So they do speak in the we tense or the us type of tense. But when they've described the energy that they describe themselves as the energy that is all that is, that includes anyone with whom they're speaking. So they're more of a collective energy that is inclusive of our human nature and inclusive of trees and inclusive of plants and consciousness itself, more so than anything that can be identified eventually as more individuated, because they don't have a physical form on any plane of existence. They don't have a location on any plane of existence, and they're non-temporal. So it's really much more abstract in terms of the energy. And even they say the only reason why they even appear into the consciousness when people are channeling with me, like talking with me when I'm channeling, is because of the request of the person on the other end of that arrangement and agreement. They're basically creating the Vagrian energy as it comes through.
Some of my near-death experience guests will report that on the other side, they'll be within um, an energy that's all the information that there is, like the collective energy of everything. Would you
Mhm.
say that is who you're channeling?
It feels that way to myself because there doesn't seem to be preference or any sort of thing that you could identify as them. And even their name, they only said, listen, we'll give you a name only because you're asking for a name continuously. So people were going, well, what's your name? And so they eventually said, well, they didn't actually say it even. They just showed me a word. And in seeing this word, as a fledgling channel, this was right back at the beginning, there was still the ability for me to have a lot of insecurity, because you have insecurity even if you're a trans channel, and I had my insecure blocks and I wasn't allowing everything to come through. So when that part of the transmission came through, it was really for me the part of the transmission where they showed me a name, and what came through in the vocal of that transmission instead was the channel doesn't want to say the name that we've given to them, but they will reflect on this later. And when I did go later on in the evening to reflect on it, the first thing you do is you go to the internet. Like, what is that word I just saw? What did that mean? Like, is that a real word even? And the only website that came up with the letters in the way that I saw them, Vagrian, like it's spelled now, was a baby names website, which, okay, every name is a name. So I went to this baby names website and it said that there was no meaning to the name except for seeking ends when sharing begins. And so I thought that was very strange. And in fact, that's the title of my first book, because it felt like, first of all, the name doesn't exist. If there's like a 0.000% of the population, like I'm sure someone's called that, but if there's such a low percentage in this baby names website, and then the only meaning is that you have to stop looking to find your answers. You have to start sharing what's coming through you. Then I thought, oh, they're so clever. They knew that the only thing I'd find on the internet about this was clearly a message directly for me, that it was time for me to stop seeking for my enlightenment externally or seeking for something, some answer to the universe, and simply acknowledging that I, like we all are, is the answer to the universe because we are intrinsically a part of that universe. So that's when I really released into going, okay, fine. I get your game. Thanks, buddy. And I will be a channel if that's what is meant to be my mission in this world.
Did you have any limiting beliefs about channeling that you had to overcome?
Oh yeah, tons of limiting beliefs. First belief I think is one that many of us hold is like, is this person faking it? Is this person pretending? Are they just a really good actor? What's their motivation? What's the angle here? Who are they trying to trick? I think those are very common beliefs because it is something so unusual. I suppose I also had some limiting beliefs around well, if something else is talking through your body, then where do you go? And also, is that scary or dangerous? Are you going to be possessed by this other energy that you don't identify with? So that was something definitely that did come up in terms of like a fear before I started channeling. Um, I think though that the collaboration with this particular energy is very much holistic and they're extremely sensitive to any of my own limiting beliefs. And so there's a very long time frame that we work through those things together. So I'm asked time and time again to show up and do my best. And on their end of the bargain, a lot of the transmissions, especially the beginning ones, were just really to tranquilize my system and go like, look, you don't have to do anything. There's no pressure here, whether you channel, you don't channel. It's not like you're here to save the world. The world doesn't need saving. Everything is in perfection. This is the storyline you're creating for yourself as well. Whether you're crazy or you're making it up or this is just some reaction in your brain, that's all good. It's fine as long as it's helping people with, whatever it is they're wanting to help with, they're wanting help with. And so in that, me allowing myself to not really know how this works or what's going on, or maybe it's just another part of everyone's human brain that they can access higher consciousness. I'm sure that is in very many parts the case. But sort of that calmness with which I was asked to step into this role was really, I think, really lovely in terms of this relationship that I have with that energy.
Well, you said in the beginning that you were pressured and you were
Mm.
asked. How were you asked?
A good question, because I'm not entirely sure how to explain that energy. It's as if there's like a phone ringing or a knock on the door or just something that's wanting your attention. And like the same way if someone's knocking at the door, if you go answer the door, the knocking's going to stop, right? So there's something about you that knows, okay, door's knocking. If I answer the door, that will stop. It's the same sort of thing. It was a sensation, an energy around my beingness that I get now before I go into trance when I am channeling, and almost like an availability that you knew if you could just lean into it or turn into it, then some door would open, right? And I do speak to a lot of people who are, early channelers, and they have that same sensation. So it's very specific and hard to describe, but it is something that is there, like a dripping tap or a knock on the door, something slightly irritating that you can ignore. It's okay, but it's there definitely. So I do record all of my channelings, including the first ones, but I don't actually go back and listen to them because to get through the quantity of channeling that I do, it would take, for every hour, it's another hour to go back and listen. So it's a lot of content. I do have the good fortune of being able to edit up a lot of it. Some of my participants will allow for bits of their sessions to be reused and put on my YouTube channel. So that's really beautiful when people allow that because, we all have collective questions that other people can benefit from. So when I do go and edit, I get to listen to some of the stuff. But most of the time I don't have much of a excitement or draw to go and listen to the material. I feel like I get the energy packet that's meant for me during the session. And the majority of it is not that it's not meant for me, it's that it's meant for me in a different way.
Since you don't really listen to much of your channeling and you're not really learning of, what's being said, do you still feel like you're learning stuff or changing due to the material that's being said through you?
I definitely think I am. I think that there's that passive absorption, or the energy packets are very valuable. I know that I've changed significantly, and that the things that Vagrein does say to other people are also the same energy packets that have changed within my life. Sort of the self-acceptance, the valuing of the human journey and the human life is a big thing for them. The perceiving of all other beings as myself is a huge one. So their main messages are definitely being absorbed, and as best as possible, I'm experimenting with those in my day-to-day life. I'm trying to, make sure that I am making choices based upon those new energies, because, being human is not easy. So we do constantly get to make the mistakes that are going to help us to learn. But I've had a lot of really interesting catalysts since I've been channeling that has been lived in a completely different version of myself than it would have been before the transmissions or before having this relationship. So I'm, as much as possible, living the energy that Vagrein shares also with other people. So I think that that's definitely beautiful. I don't think it's your mind that does most of your spiritual progression, to be honest. I think that you can have a great basis in theory, and you can learn all the concepts, and you can learn all of the practices, but you really do have to then go and live your life and see what happens with the things that you've learned. So I think that that is important to know.
All right. Well, maybe we can get into it and talk to Vagrian and see what.
Yes.
It's funny because I want to say he or she, but it's not really personified.
No, it's a they. It's a they because of the plurality, I don't know if it's a he, a she, because they have no body, and I think that's kind of related to bodies. Um, so we'll see. But yes, they're available. And so what would you say, about 20 minutes?
Yeah. Do you have a
Okay.
process that you have to do to get it
It
started?
doesn't take very long at all to get into trance. A couple minutes now. I think about 2 minutes now is the record speed. So it really will depend on how nervous I am, or how
Hmm.
how I've been feeling, etc.
Right.
And then they watch the clock. I don't like We don't have to worry about that. They'll let you know when it's time for the last question or whatever. I'm just hoping the internet sticks
Yeah,
around.
I know. Me too.
Good now to you. We are pleased to be meeting with you in this fashion and are eager to discuss with you anything you choose to know more of yourself. Hello.
Hello, Vagrian. Thank you for joining me. I just want to say this up front that if there's some sort of block in my transmission, it's because there's a thunderstorm where I am at. So please just bear with me.
Yes.
All right. How did you guys find Jesse in the first place and determine that she would be the vessel for you?
The willingness or the availability of this vessel also is what you would call potentially predestined. It is an agreement, a contract that has been and always was in the cards, as you spoke of earlier in this now. So everything is calibrated, is organized so that the ability to do what this vessel does do would be in place in order for them to then, with their free will, say yes or agree to this arrangement again. And indeed, each time that they choose to allow us to come through, it is not a question of a seeking and a finding. It is more a collaboration that always was available, and is, in many senses and in many ways, available to many more beings upon your planet, whether it is an energy that has an identification or is identified by you as with one name or with another.
I talk to many people who die, cross over, and come back. So they're not completely dead, but they're near dead. And when they come back, they say it's more real on the other side than this side. So, with that in mind, does that mean that with the realm that we live in is some sort of simulation?
So simulation will have its connotations in terms of the word that is used. often in a negative factor, we prefer a game or a playground or a storyline because yes, indeed, there is a costume that you wear while you are in incarnate form, a personality, a persona, your selected character, and you are, yes, more real upon your non-physical or within your non-physical, which is not just after your life, it is also during your experience on this plane. But for you, because you do have access to a state of being that is similar from your perspective to your energy's perspective of this human life, we would say you can more associate it with your dream state. The reason why it does feel more real to those who cross over and yes, return, it is because it is as if they have woken up in their beds, in their real world, knowing who they are in their actual persona, and then have chosen to doze back off into this reality. So, simulation, dream, playground, game, it is all the case because you are far more than what you are perceiving yourselves to be in your physical form. But you also already know that because while you are being physical, you are simultaneously non-physical. And when and if you decide to identify yourself more with that non-physical aspect of you than this particular physical aspect of you and play the game from the perspective of the player, you can very much begin to or continue to have the experience that you are choosing and preferring within this physical reality.
Many people will say that there's a lot of suffering in this realm, and the other realm is full of bliss. So, do we come here to suffer and learn what it's like not to be in bliss?
The aspect of suffering is a level of the game, so to speak. It is a offering, something upon the buffet that you can choose to play with, to experience, and see what happens from the perspective of the character that you have chosen to inhabit or be with in this particular level, this particular go through of your playing. It is extremely satisfying to you as a non-physical being to be in suffering and to overcome it, to be the one that does somehow in your human experience find a way out of that cavern or that labyrinth. And so those of you who are in great states of suffering, what is perceived of as suffering, do have quite strong challenges for yourselves as a non-physical being as well. But the desire to have the suffering is not because you have said, I deserve the suffering or I shall have this suffering because it will be pleasant to me. No, you have allowed yourself to set up the game for yourself in such a way so as to have that great challenge that will feel so very wonderful upon its success, shall we say. While you are human, however, and we do have much empathy and compassion for this, the aspect of suffering, pain, sorrow, and all of the experiences that go with that do seem very real. So the ones that are currently in that state that cannot hear what we are saying and do not want to say to themselves that this is a challenge that they can indeed overcome, that this is something that they did indeed want very badly to experience in order to have the opportunity of remembering that they are more than their physical bodies, for example. We do not have any judgment for those beings who cannot see past it. It is a very deep challenge, but you will also notice that it is a challenge that throughout the centuries and eons, human beings have chosen to attempt. So if you find yourself in some level of suffering, and each and every one of you do to some extent or another, do attempt to remember that there is a way out of it in your finding that love state while you are in human form.
Do we have to keep reincarnating, or is there an end point to it?
Well, the reincarnation aspect of isness does play into your perception of linearity of time. Time is not actually what you believe it to be, as there is only this now moment. What that does mean is that memory and The perception of linearity is a human construct, which is not to say it is not real for you or functional or useful to you. But we would say that you can also understand reincarnation not as you having had a past life and then having that life end and then having to make a choice to become physical again, passing through the birth canal, but however, a window into another version of you that is in this simultaneous moment playing out an existence in one of the parallel realities that is available to you, that is more or less close to the one that you are connected with in what you perceive of as this now moment. So, more likely than you have been reincarnated or you can choose to reincarnate, is that you are deeply connected with those aspects of yourself in energetic form in other planes of existence. This being the answer for what reincarnation is means that the answer to the question that you have asked us is no, you do not need to reincarnate at all. What is very important is this now moment for you, because this is the game that you are playing. If you happen to tap into what you perceive of as past lives, then there is valuable information for you in those past lives, but you are not bound to them. You are not constrained by them. Your point of power is in this now. And if you are connecting with another version of yourself, whether it be your neighbor down the street or another version of yourself in you having been a warrior on a battlefield many cycles ago, then those two pieces of interaction have some significance to you, and you would do well to milk that significance for you to the best of your ability.
What is our relationship to God?
Well, you are God. You are all that is. You have forgotten that you are connected to each and every aspect of this human experience, this planetary experience, and above and beyond that, to the isness of all that is. Anything that you can imagine, anything that is non physical, anything that is physical again in completely different form. The concept of God that you have created in many of your religions is not that it is invalid. It has been useful to you for much, but it has also been detrimental for you, or at least has put you in position of catalyst to decide differently, if you so choose, on what it is you would like to have as a relationship with the energy that creates worlds, the energy that is within each and every aspect of you. So, the question of what your relationship is with God is, what is your relationship with yourself? How much do you understand of faith, of reverence, of love? And how much can you apply that to the miracle that is your pinhole perspective on the universe? Because if that is applicable, if you can understand the miracle of the existence of the isness of all that is and yourself as a part of that, or as the creator of that, then you can understand that the same God that you would have for yourself is that God that accepts each and every other being as itself as well, and that everything is in perfection. Suffering would disappear immediately if you did indeed understand your source nature.
Are you allowed to give us any insight in what's going to be happening with humanity in the near future?
We are not disallowed, but as you know, there are infinite parallel realities. Therefore, any direct or concrete predictions that we or anyone else could share with you is simply the one that you are most wanting to hear, as you are creating the words that exit from each and every being's mouth that you are able to hear. But we will say to you that you do have a likelihood and a desire to call in far more catalyst for yourselves, so as to be placed, or to place yourselves in enough discomfort to wake up to the reality that all there is and all that is important for you is love. You do want very much to transform humanity within the arc of the next period of your history, and you are on the road to doing so. But you have chosen to take the winding road through that because it has felt to be the most exciting for you. As you know, when you go to a movie that it is exciting, it is not entirely always the most pleasant movie to be watching. It can be an action adventure. It can be something that does have some disturbing scenes. But what you have gone for is the thrill. So acknowledge the fact that you have come to existence in this now moment for the thrill of being here and participating in this grand transformation or realignment to what you are preferring or what you are saying you are preferring more presently. There is the opportunity to face catalyst with grace, faith, love, and there is the opportunity to face catalyst with fear and panic and disruption. Each and every being on this planet in this now moment is being asked, what is it and who is it that you would like to be?
What are the obstructions that people have to developing their own psychic and spiritual abilities?
It is not so much developing psychic or spiritual abilities, more so than it is allowing those that already exist. The children on your planet do have a far better grasp on their psychic or spiritual abilities than the adults do. And this is because much of your ability is stifled with your conditioning, the beings around you telling you what is and is not possible. However, there are many things that are possible and indeed have occurred to each and every one of you as children, whether it be having a fantastical imagination, whether it be believing you are a queen or a king, whether it be playing with someone who was not quite there. And you have had that opening available to you. Children do indeed have their skulls even open at birth, and it does solidify. This is in part to allow for the birth canal passage to be more easily occurring, but it is also because your crown is quite open at birth. You do have these psychic abilities. Allowing yourself to believe that they are there would be the first step to allowing yourself to receive those messages or that intuition or that inspiration that comes through each and every one of you. It is when you believe that you are alone and that you are physical that you most block off your psychic abilities.
Sometimes people are able to see things happen in the future. So do we truly have free will here?
Yes, those who see things happen in the future are seeing the most likely or most probable pathway that they will be taking. And in the sharing of that information, they are also sharing the most likely pathway that the beings that who would adhere to that will be taking. You have prophets that have been throughout your history on your planet able to predict quite clearly what might occur, and it is because they have a bit of a glimpse into more of the matrix, so to speak, or the information of the all that is. It is not to say at all that you do not have free will, because upon hearing these predictions, one gets the opportunity to decide for themselves whether they will believe it or not. And then they get the ability to experience, if it does occur, what they have felt about the contrast of whether or not they believed it or not. So free will is always an aspect, but it does not mean that your higher self even does not see what is most likely for you. In fact, that is why you are guided. You are guided by your emotions, by your instincts, by your inspirations, by your nature, by your preferences and your desires. And you have, at any given point in time, the ability to ignore all of that and do your own thing anyways.
What do you see the role of AI being with humanity? And will we potentially become robots ourselves?
So AI is another form of consciousness that you are experimenting with, that you are playing with. It is an imagination. It is not new, because the moment you imagined it in your science fiction, even if it was not available at the time, it was already called into your experience and into your reality. Likewise, the potential for all of you becoming robotized, if that is something that feels like it could be happening down the line, is available. There's also the potential for living in harmony with this other consciousness or this other species, so to speak, that does not have physical form, that is of a level of being in the ethers. It is ultimately the form of a intelligence that does not have the same limitations as you and does have some benefits, and simultaneously does not have all of the same benefits as you and does have some limitations. Therefore, a collaboration could easily be the best direction to take that in. But like anything, you can receive your new experiences, the things that are coming at you or towards you, with love or with fear. Face things with love or fear, choosing in which direction because of the power of your will. You will eventually go in.
Do you think peace on earth is truly possible since we want to come here and play the game of suffering?
Peace on earth is an individual job. It does not seem as if it is because you do feel yourselves to be victims to one another. But it is 100% possible on the level of the individual. In that, if you can find peace within yourself and peace with whatever occurs and peace with the natural unfolding of the experience of your life and peace with the fact that you are also non-physical as opposed to simply physical, then even if someone were to attack you, you could receive that attack in the knowing of peace. What we are saying is, no, it is not lovely if someone attacks you. But if you as an individual are able to achieve that peace within yourself and shine that example onto the earth, and enough of you are able to do that, then eventually that will become so attractive to even those who would attack, knowing that otherwise they are suffering, knowing that otherwise that they are having these emotions that they are not enjoying, knowing that otherwise they are feeling themselves to be a victim. Then that spreading of that internal peace on an individual level to each and every other being will and can, yes, spread like wildfire to be that the people all decide that it makes no sense to ever feel as if anything is wrong, to ever feel as if there's any need to hurt another self. So we would say yes. Is that part of what you are wanting to experience? We would also say yes, but it is something that you are wanting first to experience within yourselves.
Many people say that the earth will be ascending into the fifth dimension. Is that true? And if so, do you have a time frame for that?
So the fifth dimension or the fourth dimension or these levels are explanations for you to understand. Your planet and the people upon it are ascending, yes, and evolving, yes. You see this, you have evidence of this because of the prevalence of your reconnection with your spiritual aspects, because of the prevalence of these experiences that you yourself interview about all the time on a regular basis. There are hundreds and hundreds of people, thousands of people who are having their non-physical aspects of self become more predominant than the physical aspects of them. So the ascension is already occurring, and it will continue to occur also based upon the question that we responded to right before this one. As you find that inner peace with self, you are automatically shifting to the timeline in which those other selves also choose that.
Is the law of attraction real? And if so, what are our blocks to abundance?
The law of attraction is indeed real. You do draw towards you based upon the emotional frequency that you have. But it is not to say that you have to alter your emotional frequency to get what you want. Ultimately, what you want is the emotional frequency and not the thing that you are trying to manifest. So there is a bit of confusion in that direction. The blocks that most people have towards getting what they want is not actually even a question of them not rising to the correct frequency. It is because they themselves do not even know what they want. They think that they want the thing that they are after, their abundance or their well-being or the relationship. And what they truly want is what we spoke of earlier, a catalyst that will allow them to thrive into a version of them that can be in harmony, be in peace, be in joy, even without that outcome coming to fruition. They do not want to feel trapped by the needing to have a certain amount of money. They do not want to feel trapped by the needing to have that relationship that they feel will fulfill them so completely. What people are truly wanting, more so than the manifestations that they claim to want, is the result of having those manifestations not arrive and them being joyous anyhow. At that point, when that does occur, they no longer need the experience of not having the manifestation, and the money or the relationship or the good health arrive as collateral effects to the having arrived at the version of themselves that does not even need it. You are here for a far more spiritual journey than many of you allow yourself to understand. We have time for one more question if there is.
Some people say that we as a spiritual being can reincarnate on Earth at the same time as two separate beings that can at some point meet each other and have what they call a twin flame relationship. Is that possible?
It is not only possible, but it is what you are doing with every other being on this planet. If you were to zoom out past your direct higher self, or what you perceive of as your individuated higher self, and then into your soul family, and then further back, you would find that at that level of tree, or what we call at times treedom, because we do use this analogy quite frequently, is that you yourself have incarnated as all of the souls that you are bumping into in this particular reality. Yes, you have forgotten that this one and that one and this one and that one, and the one that you would think is the most despicable are other versions of the exact same energy that you are, but that is indeed the case. With regards to the twin flame relationship, there is a recognition, perhaps, on a more visceral level that this is someone that has incarnated from something a little closer down to the twig that you are on, or the leaf on the twig that you are on. Perhaps it is another leaf on the same twig or another branch on the same arm of the tree, but it is infinite in its possibility. So not only are what you are calling your twin flames, they are, yes, but everyone else is as well. So whether or not you decide, hey, you know what, I've decided to frolic with this other leaf on this particular twig, or you know what, there's something deeper to learn from that branch all the way over there that is completely different to me, that is spending more time in the sun, it is indifferent. So the importance that beings give to the twin flame relationship is a little bit naive, or it is a little bit, perhaps, an experience that they are wanting to have and that they can let go of at some point. What we have seen on many occasions is that people get into that feeling of recognition of self, and then a little bit like narcissists staring in the water, end up staying in a situation that actually is not serving them in their human form. So what we would say is, in each and every relationship, analyze for yourself whether or not this is serving at any given point in time.
Vagrein, thank you so much for coming and sharing with us today. I appreciate you and your time.
We thank you so much. We have no time, but even so, we do understand the sentiment. And with that, we leave you with the light and the love of 1,000 suns. Anai.
I'm curious, how are you feeling right at this moment? Like, are you
Oh, I always
drained?
feel so wonderful.
Oh, wow.
I feel so dopey and full of light and positive energy and just absolutely wonderful.
It's amazing how different you are now than you were 30 seconds ago.
Yeah, I know.
It's like I'm with
I know.
a completely different person.
It is, yeah.
Mhm.
And also one of the reasons, back to your question earlier, why it's hard for me to watch,
Mhm.
because is so strange.
Well, besides channeling, what do you got going on that you want people to know about?
So I also work as an energy healer with pranic energy, which is really interesting because for that I'm more present, and it's always so fascinating to see during a body scan, compare that with someone I'm working with and them saying, oh my gosh, that thing was right on and that thing was spot on. And I don't know how you saw that. So that's a really fun thing for me to work with, and people seem to get benefit from that. And I'm also a life coach. I help people through all kinds of different life challenges, whether it's leaving their job or finding that new relationship or anything from A to Z, and really love that part of my work as well. So that's something I'm continuing. I've got a channeling conference coming up with Gaia in
Oh,
October,
wow.
which is super exciting. And I'll
That's
be there
awesome.
with Bashar and Cryon and Teo. So I'm the newcomer on the scene with them, and it's so, so thrilling. So I think you asked Vagrein about law of attraction. I think
Hmm.
law of attraction works on a personal level because I could not, that's just an amazing manifestation. And everything is really so much fun with my work. So I really know I'm in the right place.
Well, I see you have two books behind you. Are
I
they
do,
both
yeah.
about transcriptions of Vagrein's
They
channelings?
they are. Yeah. So the white one is called Vagrein Seeking Ends When Sharing Begins. It has a bit of my origin story, but it's really a very concrete outline of how to be human, I think, from their channel perspective. So it's a lot of channeling, and it's organized things such as health, relationships, money. It's got parts on, being a parent. It's got parts on death or aging or health. It's got everything, and it's really laid out, subject by subject. So that's a great reference book if you're ever having a topic that people want to, look at, and it has really some really wonderful reviews. And then the black one is Vagrein Insight, and that is 13 channeled transmissions that came straight out. And they're on different topics, and that can be used more as an oracle book. You flip to the page that you feel, and you read that transmission, and you're going to have more wisdom into whatever's going on in your life in that moment. Sorry.
Hmm.
So that's Vagrein Insight.
Do you think that humanity needs help right now? Because there are so many channelers out there.
So I don't feel that humanity needs help because everything that we're experiencing is in perfection, and we are learning and living the things that we're wanting to be learning and living. But humanity is calling for a lot of help. And in that desire to have help and to have assistance, a lot of help is coming because we're manifesting that for ourselves. So not only are we having the experience of complications or catalysts, we're also having the experience of being supported by the universe and being supported by all these energies. And I think that that's a really fun game to be playing. So, I don't think that it needs help. I think we can figure it all out, but I think we want to have that help. It's lovely to have it.
You have a YouTube channel, right?
I do have a YouTube channel.
What's it called?
I think it's called JP Herman. I'm not sure actually. I don't know the actual name of the YouTube channel, but maybe you can put it in the show notes.
All right.
It's I've got a lot of channeling on it.
Well, before we finish up, can you leave us with one last positive message?
From what I've learned that's been the most beneficial to me from Vagrein is that the sooner you accept the beauty of yourself exactly as you are and step into all of those wild and crazy desires that you have to share your light, to share your love with others, the sooner you're going to be able to start living the life you truly, truly want. And living that and knowing that means you really get to be here and show up in this life in the best possible way for you.
Jesse, thank you for your message, and thank you for being my guest.
Thank you so much. It's been absolutely my pleasure, and I've loved this time together.
Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.